Hello, and welcome to another video here at Stanley Gibbons Baldwins. And today we're going to be examining some very historically important letters.
And these aren't just any letters. These are letters written by the Sir Rowland Hill, the father of the postage stamp as we know it.
And the father of the modern postal system. Now, Rowland Hill, in his many years of life, even after his great reforms of the postal system in the 1830s, was a prolific letter writer, penning many thousands of letters during his day. And we've got just a few here, and some of them are a little bit more interesting than others, and we'd like to talk about them. So I think we shall have to start with this particular letter because I believe that is the oldest one in the selection that we have here.
Indeed, let's do it chronologically. So here we have a letter from 1838, and it's about the Post Office Bill, and it's from Sir Rowland Hill requesting that the eccentric Liberal MP for Bridport, Swinfen Jervis, attends, and it did actually work because he did attend, and he did vote in favour of it. The ayes had it 81, and the noes only had 56, so it went through.
As some of you may have seen in a previous video that I did about Rowland Hill, that post office reform wasn't necessarily welcomed by many because members of Parliament from the House of Commons and the House of Lords would lose their franking privileges, so they wouldn't be able to send letters for free. But thankfully, the MPs, seeing which way the wind blow, voted for the bill, and post office reform became an act of Parliament, and we still enjoy this great postal system to this day.
So, Oscar, what is it that you've got?
Well, I've got this letter here dated 1842 pertaining to the payment of post office guards on the Birmingham Railway Company. And of course, the post office was beginning to start working with railway companies up and down the country for the transportation of mail. And of course, as mail was a very precious and valuable commodity, it needed to be guarded at times. Hence why you had all the problems with highwaymen and mail coaches. Of course, now being transported by rail, you have post office guards to protect the mail whilst it was in transit. And of course, in this particular letter here, clearly signed by Mr. Hill himself, he is asking for a copy of a previous letter that he'd already sent them for his own records. So a nice little bit of Victorian administration there for you.
Fascinating. So the next letter I've got here from one Sir Rowland Hill is about how he had to stay in Brighton for a couple of weeks due to his illness. Now we all see Sir Rowland Hill as a bit of a deity, if nothing more. So this fantastic letter personifies him and just gives you a bit of context to what was actually going on in his personal life. Very fascinating piece of his private history.
And if anything, the Victorians did like to share with people their thoughts and feelings, and of course, how ill they were at times. So, for the final letter that we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about this particular one here, in which Rowland Hill protests his annoyance against having to sit for a portrait that was being commissioned by Mr. J. Collins. Now, of course, Rowland Hill was quite the Victorian celebrity at this time and was inundated with such requests, and this was a portrait that was painted by a gentleman called William Henry Hunt. And William Henry Hunt made this wonderful portrait of Sir Rowland Hill, which a black and white copy is represented here. I'm not sure where this portrait is currently. I think it was actually gifted to Rowland Hill in the end. But Rowland Hill was expressing this particular letter at his annoyance at the fact he had to sit for this portrait, pay the artist for the portrait.
God forbid.
Exactly. And also at the lack of communication he'd received from the person that commissioned it. I will just read you a few lines from his note.
God forbid artists get paid for their work.
Indeed. Your application for me for the loan of several portraits which I already possess, it was at your own act. After all, I had consented to lend you the large portrait which yourself selected to employ Mr. Hunt to make an original portrait, and not a word was said as to this being at my expense, nor would I have anything to do with the arrangements except consenting to sit for the artist, which I did very reluctantly. However, I agreed with Mr. Hunt to pay him a fair price for his portrait, provided it is given to me immediately, as I cannot consent to have any more of my time occupied with a vexatious correspondent. You will therefore have the goodness to consider all further proceedings in the matter as at an end. I am, sir, your obedient servant, Rowland Hill. If that isn't a very angry Victorian letter, I don't know what is. So, I hope you've enjoyed this little snapshot into the Victorian mindset with these letters written by the great Rowland Hill.
These will be up for grabs very shortly, so keep your eyes out on sgbaldwins.com, and these could end up in your collection. Thank you very much for watching.
And as always, please like and subscribe for more Stanley Gibbons content.